Favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner, try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson, or at hazelsnetogo.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. For your Tuesday, Matt and Patrick here today. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing?
All right. I did not. Okay, the Big Ten women's basketball tournament's in town this weekend, or this week, starting tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Is that the new thing that Minneapolis hosts the women's basketball tournament?
I do not know. I know they've wanted to branch out a little bit because I think the men's tournament will be coming here as well in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Which for the most part, for those of you who don't really follow sports, generally these tournaments get played in either Indianapolis or Chicago, but they've kind of decided to branch out a little bit, especially I think Madison Square Garden in New York is where they've really wanted to have this tournament for a while.
We're going to be, I got news for you. With Rutgers, that gets us Madison Square Garden. When UCLA and USC join the Big Ten coming up here in, how many years? 3 years, 4 years? Then all of a sudden you get get LA. So
yeah, and that'll be an interesting one because now that I think about it, I don't think there will be a conflict. I think the Pac-12 played in LA. Now I think they're in Vegas, so I think the Big Ten is clear for that.
Well, it says welcome to everyone in town. The Gophers are not going to win this. They got a chance to beat Penn State tomorrow. The Gopher women have a chance to beat Penn State tomorrow, but if they win one game, I'd be more than pretty much a little surprised.
And I know this will make a lot of Minnesota fans' hearts harden a little bit, but go see Caitlin Clark of Iowa. She is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Is she from Minnesota?
I'm not sure, but she's the sensation of college basketball on the women's side right now.
I will say this, it's funny. I went to the Big Ten. I went to the Gopher hockey game, and all those kids are the best of Minnesota, and they're a really good team. Our best players in Minnesota on basketball get picked clean by every other program. And we're left with, including like North Dakota State take our players. So, yeah, it's not good. By the way, I got a little bit, if you are watching on the live stream here, I'm setting myself up here. I got my cough drops. All right. I've got my Kleenex. All right. By the way, let Brett know I used some of your Kleenex yesterday. My bad. And so if you want a few plies of sheet here, you're more than welcome to come ransack my stash here. I got that little cold thing coming through. And it's just delightful. And what made it yesterday just chef's kiss. I am still taking a diuretic from back in my kidney days. Right? Remember, I had that kidney condition that nearly killed me. Alive and well. That's in remission, but I do still have to take a diuretic on a regular basis. And if you take a diuretic, if you've ever had to take one, I mean, this is like, one, make sure you're near a bathroom for 3 hours. And two, you'll get kind of Charlie horses because your body is kind of just pulling water out of it. And so you'll do this, which led to yesterday just being an absolute delight because every time I sneezed, I pulled a new stomach muscle. Oh, God, was that delightful. Every single time, it's like a Jew. It hurt bad. Oh God, I was kind of miserable last night. I went and I've got myself set for tonight though. I've got the NyQuil. Just lie down in bed, take that shot, and say, I wonder how long and there I am. I'll be out till morning. So did you have this? You have this little cold thing that came through?
Yeah, I did pretty recently. It only lasted, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, which was kind of surprising. I can't remember having a cold that brief in a while.
My wife had it. She had it for a week. My kids have it, and they have it like 2 days. I usually am on the quicker side. I will say this. It's so funny. When my wife or my daughters are sick, I'm like, hey, or my son, even over at the University of Minnesota, he's over at the U. I'm like, you're sick? Okay, I tell you what, how about I whip up some homemade soup for you real quick, no problem. Nice chicken stock or a tomato, whatever you want. can do a veggie, can do a beef with barley. Oh, delicious. But whatever you want, let me know. Homemade soup makes every person who's sick feel good. It really does.
Absolutely, yes.
I get sick. Isn't there a can of soup up there you can make for yourself? Okay, I'm good. Thanks. Thank you. I'll just wither away, look at winter slowly melt, and think of some kind of disturbingly dark Irish poet. Thank you. That will be my. Isn't there some chicken noodle from Campbell's in there? There's your mom. Go, she can take care of you. Thank you. I love you. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Ooh, by the way, May 21st, Bill Maher is going to be coming to Mystic Lake Casino. That's right, Bill Maher at Mystic Lake on May 21st. Today, once this hour, once next hour, we will give away a pair of tickets to go see Bill Maher. Now, not right now. We're not doing that right now. Horses need to be held, people. But sometime this hour, I'll give away a pair of tickets. Sometime next hour, I'll give away a pair of tickets. Also, I'll just let you know, Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer is going to be kind enough to join us and talk about some of the news stories that the Reformer is covering. An absolutely outstanding news site. If you have not been covering it, you need to be covering it. And so make sure you're checking that out. Patrick, have you been watching The Last of Us from HBO?
That has not been something that's been on my list. But tell me about it, though.
It is I discovered it is a video game that's been converted into a TV show. It's quite good. It's quite well done. It's basically, it's kind of a little zombie-ish. It's not really. What's happened is a kind of bacteria, mold, spores, fungi have adapted because of climate change and can now, these are the ones that kind of control insects and stuff like that, make zombie insects. That's kind of what's happening. And so you have the fungi have basically wiped out a good portion of the population. And The Last of Us is just basically 20 years in the future, the remaining people that are left behind, the stark reality that is out there. A feel-good hit. Anyway, so you go see this. There has been an interesting trend. Now, if you do want to watch one of the best pieces of television I have seen in years, their third episode that they had with the guy who played Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec. Do you remember off the top of your head? Okay, let's say Parks and Recreation. That's Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman played a guy who had gone through, who had made it, who wasn't rounded up, and kind of built his own secure area. And it talked about his story from his point of view and finding love with another man who, this was like 6 years after the original outbreak, and they end up having this truly deeply lovely relationship, which is unbelievably wonderful to watch it. I mean, and for a show about the end of the world, it kind of gives you hope and feeling and stuff like that. And it just was wonderful. That was episode 3. Episode 7, I believe, was the episode on Sunday night. And it had to deal with the main character, who is a teenage girl who was in a relationship with another woman, so lesbian. And it talked about this relationship and the kind of the beginning of their emotions and stuff like this. So apparently, up on IMDb, the people, when these episodes come on out, the ones that have a strong LGBTQ message within them, which you want to know the truth is, I don't think it's a strong LGBTQ message. I think it's a great relationship message. I don't care who you are. If you can't watch the third episode with Nick Offerman, if you can't watch that and have real emotional and real feelings and feel really good about the relationship that he has, there's something wrong with you. I mean, it just really was a touching, wonderful relationship. I thought both of them were great, but because haters, aka far-right loonballs, are out there, have to try to ruin everything. They have gone up on these sites and they give it 1-star reviews. They kind of give it bad reviews because they're angry that part of the story involved an LGBTQ angle. And I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, you guys are pathetic losers. Can I just, you're pathetic losers when you're out there and you just rage hate. Now, first of all, the fact that you are that angry at an episode about comfortable, relationships tells me a lot about you. I mean, it really does. You might want to seek a counselor. Open up your mind. That's my suggestion, because I think you got a lot of repressed crap going on down in there. But can I just say, I am tired of the right wing's crap. I am tired of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am tired of freaking Dilbert. I am tired of these clowns, because they keep pushing and they keep screaming. And yes, the media in this country has this bad habit of basically slowing down for the train wreck. And so they can't rubberneck enough when Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out there, the same woman who made her start by tracking people down and screaming at them on camera, the same woman that is a less dignified howler monkey exhibit at the State of the Union speech last night, screaming about, someone confronted me in a restaurant, how dare they? Tired of you. I'm just tired. She voted against sending well wishes and prayers to the people of Turkey and Syria with the earthquake. She was one of two, Massey out of Kentucky and her, voted against basic, decent humanity. You got the Dilbert guy. You got these guys that are like, you're the racist because you heard what I said. No, you are a freaking piece of racist crap. That's what you are. And you are so damn proud of it. And it's cost you everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think this guy's going to be necessarily living check to check if he's got a freaking brain in his damn head. He basically shuts down his entire social media, shuts down that YouTube page, basically disappears in the night and lives off the money that he's already made off the Dilbert cartoons, because he's not going to make any other freaking money unless it's at as the guest speaker at a Klan picnic. I don't think he's going to be welcome pretty much anywhere else. His books, they've discontinued publishing his books. How about that? His relevancy is completely gone. But he still is belligerent out there saying, it's not me, it's you. And by the way, if you look at the Rasmussen poll he quotes, it's clear this was just right-wing trolling from Rasmussen, a notorious right-wing outlet that doesn't allow people to see the real methodology behind what they're doing. And as well, the question they asked it was a loaded question, because it was a traditional phrase. Is it all right to be white? Is a phrase that white supremacists have used to basically turn themselves into a minority victim status. And that's not exactly unknown. But the entire total number, I think the number of people that said that they are not okay with the statement, it's okay to be white, regardless of whatever the reason, was 34 in this entire poll. And because of that, he used that to go out there and say, don't ever help any black people ever. Wow. I'm tired of this crap. And these people that sit at home and they're going, where's a male-on-male kiss on that show? I've got to destroy it. What is wrong with you people? Dear Lord. The same people that scream that for traditional values will watch some freaking reality show where some drugged out, drunken, plastic-endorsed morons go out there and say, I've had to have sex. Woo! And they think that's great. But a portrayal of two committed men in a relationship over a long period of time where they clearly, truly do love each other, that's a bridge too far. You don't even realize how freaking broken you people are. The Last of Us is quite a good show. I can't tell you enough. I highly recommend it. It is well worth the watch. And give credit to the video game, because it sounds like a lot, and I never played the video game. I don't play a lot of video games. I don't. But it sounds like a lot of the script and the storyline comes directly from the video game. So if you're going to congratulate the TV series, you've got to congratulate the people that wrote the game as well. But the reality is that what I think this is the world that we are inheriting. This is it. Normalcy. And I'm tired of you clowns in the far right that just your hate and frankly, your unresolved personal issues, yeah, you do, have led you down this path to where you see true love and it infuriates you. When I told you that if the Republicans get their way, they will start going back into people's bedrooms and regulating what kind of sex you can have with what kind of partner in the privacy of your own house. They will do that. Cops will be kicking open bedroom doors in private residences and saying you're under arrest because you're not doing it the way we've deemed correct. Because that's who these people are. And it is a small minority. It really is. It's probably 10 to 20% of the population at best. But if we sit back here and just say, we're going to ignore it, or we sit back here and say, we're not going to take it seriously. Dude, have you seen that freaking Supreme Court? Take this seriously. Take this 1,000% seriously. I'll tell you what, when we come back, we'll talk about the Supreme Court. We'll talk about this case that Biden and trying to forgive the student loan debt and what the real implications are, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure we understand something. Joe Biden just played these guys. No matter what the outcome is on this, it's not going to be good for the Republicans. And it's, as a matter of fact, if it gets struck down, it's going to be far worse for the Republicans than they could ever dream. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. The Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Over 98% of people who experience sexual harassment or sexual assault in the workplace choose not to report it. Whether it's the fear of retaliation, belief that a bystander will report it, or worry about career advancement, at MJSB Employment Justice, we help employees take a stand. I'm Bree Johnson, partner at MJSB Employment Justice, a 50% women-owned law firm. If you feel unsure what to do following sexual harassment, we will be your voice to speak your truth.
Be heard. You deserve better. Contact us today for a free consultation at mjsbjustice.com.
Tune in this Saturday morning right here on AM 950 for the kickoff of Season 7 of the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. We'll be discussing the world of seeds and seed starting, as well as strawberries in the ground and containers. Our guest is author Pam Farley, and will answer your garden questions. That's all this Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on AM 950. Tell a friend and let's grow together.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. On December 8th, I was driving home in my Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. At a traffic light, a car slammed into me. Without a doubt in my mind, if I hadn't been driving a Sienna, I wouldn't be here right now. The car is designed to take a wallop and keep the people inside safe, as it did for me. It's one thing to hear someone talk about safety standards. It's another to become an example of the safety standards. The Toyota saved my life, and I will always own one. If you want real safety, visit Rudy Luther Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota, the corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Hey, it's Patrick. February is the month for love, but when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it really deserves? If your carpet hasn't been professionally cleaned, you are breathing unhealthy levels of nasty dirt, dander, bacteria, and germs that keep recirculating again and again. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing that nasty stuff for months. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love for you and your home with their Love Your Rug special. Get 3 rooms, Zero Resified from the Twin Cities' #1 carpet cleaner starting at just $119. Plus, this month only, they are throwing in a free hallway to sweeten the deal. But hurry, this deal won't last long. And because love has no limits, Zero Res is going to take $75 off your air duct cleaning. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online at ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. A reminder, once again, we're giving away some Bill Maher tickets a little bit later on this hour, so keep listening for your chance to win. As I was initially reading about the arguments going on in front of the Supreme Court today in regards to Joe Biden's plan to wipe away or reduce student loans held by millions of Americans, something crossed my mind is that this is the value of Joe Biden. This is a classic no-win situation for the Republicans. Because Either they go along with this, which is unlikely, because this is, let's make sure we understand this, not last fall, but the fall before that, fall of 2021. Fall of 2021, Amy Coney Barrett and Alito came on out and went on, did a whole bunch of speeches about how dare you call the rulings we're about to make political, and they did this, those two liars did this, because they knew every ruling they were about to make was going to be political. For God's sakes. One of the ones that we didn't talk a lot about because Roe v. Wade got overturned was that ruling about school prayer and prayer and on public school property, where Gorsuch's ruling, he wrote the final draft on that. He basically stated, oh, these were just small groups, even though there were these videos showing hundreds and hundreds of people being forced to go down to pray in a Christian ceremony at a public school, on a public school property, at a public school event. I mean, that was nothing but political. For you to ignore the undeniable, and he actually wrote these are just small groups when there is undeniable evidence that it wasn't small groups. These guys are there to make political groups. And all of them, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, Thomas, Alito, probably Roberts to a point, are all being wined and dined by these far right. I'm talking about the high up money people. They're bringing them out to private events. They're giving them, probably, great vacations. They're giving, spouses have got, access to boards and executive committees, and their kids all have high up level jobs in corporations. Their grandkids will all have high up level. This is just a big payoff. It really is. And it's pretty disgusting, but this was because this is by design. The Supreme Court of the United States of America is basically just making political arguments. This is, by the way, why I think that this is going to get struck down. But trust me, it would probably be a lot better for the Republicans to allow this to go through now than have it struck down. I'll explain that. In arguments lasting more than 3 hours, Chief Justice Roberts led his conservative colleagues in questioning the administration's authority to broadly cancel federal student loans because of the COVID-19 emergency. The plan has so far been blocked by Republican-appointed judges at lower courts. It was not clear if any of the 6 justices appointed by Republican presidents would approve the debt relief program, although Kavanaugh and Barrett appeared to be most open to the administration's arguments. Biden's only hope for being allowed to move forward with his plan appeared to be a slim possibility based on the arguments that the court would find that Republican-led states and individuals challenging the plan lack the legal right to sue. That would allow the court to dismiss the lawsuit on the threshold stage without ruling on the basic idea of loan forgiveness program that appeared to be trouble with the justices on the court right side. Roberts was among the justices who grilled the Biden administration's top Supreme Court lawyer, Elizabeth Prelogar, and suggested that the administration had exceeded its authority with the program. Roberts pointed the wide impact of the expense of the program 3 times, saying it would cost $500 billion. The program is estimated to cost $400 billion over 30 years, though. If you're talking about this in the abstract, I think almost the most casual observers say you're going to have to give up that much money. You're going to have to affect the obligations of that many Americans on a subject that's of great controversy. Would they think that something of the Congress to act? So Kavanaugh suggested the administration is using old law to unilaterally implement the debt relief program. The Congress had rejected. He said the situation was familiar in the wake of Congress not authorizing action there. He said that seems problematic. He did note that the administration was citing national emergency created by the coronavirus pandemic as an authority for the debt relief program. Now, that I want to make sure I step back and remind people of something. Not a single Republican had an issue when Donald Trump declared a national emergency on the border. He then ransacked and raided construction funds for military housing for military families to basically give a massive handout to a handful of corporations for building basically a quarter mile of wall. That's all it was. And he did this and not a single person, none of these justices, no one came on out. None of the Republicans who brought this bill forward came on out and said that was overstepping his bounds. Not a single one did that. But now all of a sudden Joe Biden does pretty much the same exact thing, only using it as the pandemic as the emergency. And they say, oh, you can't do that. Now, so this is political. 100%. Their ruling that they're going to knock this down is going to be political. But it should be noted, it would probably be better for them to knock this or to accept this and let it go, because this would only go as long as the pandemic is in effect, which would go up until May. So sure, a bunch of people would get their student loans forgiven, but it wouldn't be this, necessarily this long-term plan. You could basically come on back and say, that money is going to come back, and you're not going to be able to use it past that day. Now, and that was always one of the questions they had with the Trump administration is, once the national emergency was declared over, which is they're expecting to do this, does that policy continue in place? And generally it doesn't. That can be something that can struck down. So this is basically, you let the policy go forward, then you resue, the Republicans resue saying, okay, the national emergency ended in May of 2023. Henceforth, this program ends May 2023. That would be the end of it. Still, a lot of people get their student loans paid off, but if this doesn't go that way, what's going to end up happening is a nightmare scenario for the Republican Party. I mean, a nightmare scenario. Because what Joe Biden did is he told you to sue him, and you did. And what's going to happen now is you're going to be the party of non-affordable college. And there is nothing you can do to get away from that. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. And if I can also add really quick before we go to the break, and eventually this is going to happen because the people that this affects most of all, the 18 to 30-year-old voter, they want this badly. So this is not going to be 20, 30 years down the road. This is going to happen fairly soon. And it depends on how much you want to be roadkill on the highway to get this done. 952-946-6205. I'll talk about that more when I do come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Bill Maher.
Every year, somebody, I don't know who, but they keep a registry of the names that parents are giving their newborns. They've been naming kids things like Pistol, Shooter, Magnum, Remington. This is sick. Liberals don't do this. Liberals don't name their kids Prius and Juicer.
Bill Maher in the Mystic Showroom May 21st. Get tickets now at the Mystic box office or online at mysticlake.com.
It's lights out at Rudy Luther Toyota. Are there some mysterious lights lighting up your dashboard? Then head over to Rudy Luther Toyota and have them check out your vehicle to make sure it's safe. And scheduling an appointment is really easy. Head to rudyluthertoyota.com. Click on the lights out section and then follow the simple instructions to schedule up your service that fits your schedule. Then bring in your vehicle and have them turn those lights off. It's lights out at Luther. To schedule up your lights out service appointment, head to rudyluthertoyota.com.
This is Gregory Rich, host of Drink in the Style and owner of Habitation Furnishing and Design. People often ask me, why habitation for my home? Well, I could give you hundreds of reasons. I could talk about the extensive collection of furnishing suppliers or our exceptionally talented design team. I could talk about service, but the truth is, habitation clients come back room after room and home after home, and that speaks volumes. Habitation puts some drama into your interiors.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 35. Tonight, 1 to 3 inches of snow with a low around 30. And Wednesday, more light snow with a high around 35. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner, try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson, or at hazelsnetogo.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Bill Maher is coming to Mystic Lake Casino on May 21st. May 21st at Mystic Lake. Caller number 9 right now. Caller number 9. You're going to win yourself a pair of tickets to go see Bill Maher at Mystic Lake on May 21st. Good luck. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. If you go back to this case what we're talking about in regards to the forgiving of student loan debt, Republican-led states and lawmakers in Congress, as well as conservative legal interests, are lined up against the plan as a clear violation of Biden's executive authority. And by the way, I should mention, many of those conservative legal interests, they're out golfing with these Supreme Court justices anyway. So this is the fix is in on some of this stuff. Paraphrase, maybe not fish, maybe not golfing, but maybe fishing, maybe hunting, maybe something of that nature. So yeah, they're lined up there. Democratic-led states and liberal interest groups are backing the administration. The administration says a 2003 law, commonly known as the HEROES Act, allows the Secretary of Education to waive or modify the terms of federal student loans in connection with the national emergency. All right. The law was primarily intended to keep service members from becoming worse off financially while they fought wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Nebraska and other states that sued say the plan is not necessary now to keep defaults roughly where they were before the pandemic. The 20 million borrowers who would have their entire loans erased would get a windfall, leaving them better off than before the pandemic, the states say. So suffer. That's Nebraska. Not Nebraska. That's all these things like, how dare you make their lives better? That's them. This is a creation of a brand new program far behind what Congress intended. That's Nebraska Solicitor General James Campbell said in court on Tuesday. Dozens of borrowers came from across the country to camp out near the soggy Monday evening in hopes of getting a seat for the arguments. Among them was Sunyata Hill, who said that Biden's plan would erase all but the $500 of the debt she had. I was 18. I signed up for college. I didn't know it was going to be big of a burden. No student should have to deal with this. No person should have to deal with this, said Hill, 22, who plans to study law after she graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in May. Earlier programs halted by the court were billed largely as public health measures intended to slow the spread of COVID-19. The loan forgiveness plan, by contrast, is aimed at countering the economic effects of the pandemic. The national emergency is expected to end on May 11th. The administration says economic consequences will persist historically low unemployment. So let's make sure I want to be very clear here. I'm going to guarantee that at least some of the conservative justices have been told how to vote on this. The other ones are now under an intense lobbying behind the scenes with the hunting trips and the golf trips and the fishing trips and the cabins in the mountains and stuff like that, where they're going to be out there, getting the bonuses to basically say vote against this. And I have very little doubt that the conservative majority on the Supreme Court will indeed halt this program. But, and I'll get back to that in a second. Patrick, what do you got for me?
Congratulations to Brad and Robbinsdale. You are headed to see Bill Maher Sunday, May 21st at Mystic Lake.
Brad and Robbinsdale, congratulations. Good news, folks. Next hour, I got another pair of tickets to give away. So make sure you're here for that. Coming up here next hour and all through Thursday, we're giving away tickets to go see Bill Maher May 21st at Mystic Lake Casino. So make sure you go get tickets if you don't win them here, okay? Now, why would the court striking this down be worse for the Republicans? Well, because you guys are already getting your cabooses handed to you by Generation Z. I have talked about Generation Z. I've got 3 of them. They are tired of the adults of this country not getting stuff done. This is a generation who, and don't get me wrong, I know that out in rural America where you got rage parents saying, you're always going to vote for Trump. That's you get that. You get the people who are, raising kids somewhat racist, and they use Trump as kind of the minorities don't like him, so here's a good way to stick it to them. You're owning the libs, owning the dibs. I get that. Bad parenting happens. But even in the most red districts, there are a lot of people 25 and under who will never vote Republican, ever. This is why one of the things you see from, Marjorie Taylor Greene and stuff is trying to find ways to negate the younger vote, saying maybe we raise the voting age to 21. Maybe we, they're already trying to shut it down, because the problem that they've got is that you've got an insane amount of people who will consistently vote against Republicans because they've seen the Republicans, and all the Republicans are trying to do is scare people. And they're tired of it, and they don't understand. They do not understand when people come up there and say, you can't, gay people are bad. And they're like, why? I've got tons of friends who are gay. And, there's no argument that they can go with, because they've tied themselves to this religious side that wants to basically use the Bible to hate gays and stuff and strike down Roe v. Wade, which they did. And all of a sudden, for the first time, once they did, they started high-fiving each other and realized, holy crap, wait a second, we just started taking people's rights away. And what happened last year, it played an impact. That left a mark. The Republicans tried really, really hard to basically, say, hey, abortion's going to be legal here. You can't trust them. They will make it illegal the second they get into power. And most Generation Z understands that, at least here in Minnesota and many other states too. They understand this, that there is no election you're taking off. There's no sitting this one out. There's no pouting because your candidate is not the one that's on the top of the ticket. Nope, that you are voting every time, and you're going to be there, and you're going to be ready to go. Now, that being said, you're also talking about forgiving student loans, which is a massive problem. Republicans refuse to deal with the cost of college because, frankly, they don't feel most of us should be able to go to college, that college should only be for the wealthy, and that the rest of us should know our role and get to work on the factory floor, work in the press punch. That's a very antiquated mentality, but that's the mentality that they have. What they don't realize is that the cost is astronomical. It basically starts there. I think we're probably the only country, if not one of the only a few countries, where people graduate from college and the average person graduating is already saddled with an insane amount of debt. An insane amount of debt, which cripples their buying ability, puts a real big weight on the system. And I'm not saying that the colleges aren't good colleges, but you've got to do something to offset the cost of these things, because it is not really practical for most people who could go to college because of the cost. Joe Biden is the guy out there saying, hey, I'm trying to make college far less expensive. That's undeniable. That is not something that's undeniable. The only Republican response they're going to have once this is struck down is, well, he overreached. He shouldn't have promised this. As they sit there, a bunch of white guys in their 50s and 60s, high-fiving each other because we stopped those kids from getting any money. Ha, ha, ha. And they don't realize we all see them doing that. They because they can't. It's more about the victory than anything else. If they had a brain in their head, they would come on out right away and say, you know what? We have a deal here that's going to give, we'll forgive $10,000 worth of student loan debt. And we will as well, if in 5 years you've stayed gainfully employed after you've graduated from college, we'll forgive the other 10,000 and basically give them what they want and make it look like you're trying to help. They won't do that. They won't do that. Republicans have no ability to do stuff like this. Once again, let me go back. Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against a simple bill sending support and well wishes and prayers to the people of Turkey and Syria after their earthquake. These people are incapable of doing this. It will not happen. What they will do is they come on out and say, well, Joe Biden overreached, but if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, we'll give you a $20 tax break for basically sending your kid to college. That's what they'll do. That's what they'll do. And they'll act as if, weren't we benevolent? Weren't we benevolent? We gave wealthy people $20 more. We're cutting the cost of college. And that's what they'll do. And it's all about the sell. It's not about the actual. This is the problem for them. Generation Z, you are not going to be able to sell that to them. They know this option is out there, and now they want it. And they are becoming a larger and larger voting force every single year. This is why Marjorie Taylor Greene, after all the gerrymandering, the money advantage, the voting restrictions, the purging of voting rolls, the disinformation campaigns, all this stuff, they still can't win. The gerrymandered districts, which basically a turnip next to with an R next to their name should win. They're still barely holding on with the tips of their fingers. And they know their numbers are not going their way. That's why they're putting forward these ideas of a national divorce. Like I said, they want the Democratic states to be their simp, sugar daddy. So basically, we can't say anything. We can't judge them. We can't order them to do anything. We just got to send them all the money and just be grateful that the Republican states are near us. But you see, this is where they're at. They realize they're not going to win. And it's probably only a matter of election cycles at this point if the Democrats keep the freaking fire lit under their cabooses, where it becomes a moot point. The Republican brand is going to be so hot. This is one of the reasons why Republicans don't want Trump to run, because that's only going to accelerate this process. But it's stuff like this, the knocking it down. You're not going to do anything. And you got this Generation Z. As baby boomers are dying off, the greatest generation's almost gone. Baby boomers are dying off. What's replacing them are woke Generation Zers, and they are tired of the Republican crap. So, yeah, this is a pretty huge freaking deal. And Biden doped these guys. Absolutely doped these guys. Take this up to the Supreme Court. Do this. Because now, what do? You see that even if the Democrats can control the Congress, the Supreme Court will step in and say, nope, you can't do it. Not because that they can't do it, but because politically they have been told you've got to vote against this. So not only do you have the impact of all these Republicans who basically say, I know there's a lot of kids out there that were hoping that this was going to be the case, but, you should really be mad at Joe Biden because Joe Biden shouldn't have offered this. That's what their argument's going to be. The reality is none of these people look at that and, okay, yeah, I'm mad at Joe Biden. No. They're going to be mad at the Republicans for stopping this. They're going to be mad at the Republicans for stopping this. And it's only going to be a matter of time before this becomes a bellwether issue for Generation Z. And you had better have an answer for it and they're not going to. It's these rulings. Overturn gay marriage. Try it. Try it. And granted, I guess what your argument is saying, well, if we got Roberts and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Barrett, we got 4 of them. I know Alito and Thomas are getting old, but, if we can win one presidential election and we can have them retire. We put in some far right for judges and now we go. Now, if you are a Democrat and they do that, and you allow them to basically, and the Democrats control the Senate, and you allow them to have hearings before the next election, you're a bigger fool than I've ever dreamed you ever were. Nope, you make the very next election about, we'll hold this seat open until the election. We'll let the people decide who gets to set the next person in. You're actually starting to outplay them. Democrats, you're actually starting to outplay them. But it's because of Joe Biden and his kind of brilliant strategy here, because the fruits of this, the people will feel bad when they get struck down. You've basically unleashed a beast. And the Republican brand within Generation Z, it will be the worst numbers you have seen a political party have with a specific generation in decades. In maybe centuries, maybe since the Civil War. and the dislike of that back then before the Republicans, when the Republicans were the Democrats. Because Generation Z, you're not winning them over by telling them who they need to hate, what rights you're taking away from them, and what advantages that the Democrats are trying to give away that they're purging from you that they don't need. So good luck with that. And by the way, let me take a break. Come on back. Let me also just say this. I gotta give a little pep talk here to the Democrats, because you guys are doing a great job here in Minnesota. Don't be afraid of what you're doing. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
This is Frank Brown, owner of Minuteman Press Uptown. We've been working with political campaigns and nonprofits for years, helping with their printing and promotional needs. Year after year, campaigns and organizations come back to us because we deliver on time. Our team has over 100 years of experience, and we have 2 graphic designers on staff. We know running a political campaign is very dynamic with last-minute deadlines. At Minuteman Press, we are ready for the last-minute job and will make it happen. We print T-shirts, lawn signs, door hangers, bumper stickers, lit pieces, postcard mailers that we can assist with targeting and so much more. We are the only minority-owned union print shop in Minnesota, and we stand up for racial, social, and economic justice. Choose the company that matches your values for your political campaigns, printing, and promotional needs. We have a 5-star rating on Google with over 150 reviews. See what our customers are saying about us. Call Minuteman Press Uptown at 612-870-0777 or visit mpuptown.com. Minuteman Press Uptown. We print everything.
This is Ross Stadheim, partner at MJSB Employment Justice. At our firm, we specialize in cases where our clients tried to do the right thing by reporting illegal or unethical conduct and were demoted or fired. There are laws in place that protect people like you who tried to do the right thing by reporting a problem but were retaliated against. At MJSB Employment Justice, we are fearless advocates who will protect your rights and obtain justice, whether it be a Fortune 500 company or something smaller.
Be heard. You deserve better. Contact us today at mjsbjustice.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. I want to just take a quick moment here. DFL in Minnesota, you guys are doing a great job. You're getting some real stuff done right now at the expense of the Republicans, who have basically been a logjam for the last 6 years. I can't tell you how glad I am to see that you guys are sticking together, because one of the biggest problems that we've had in the Democratic Party is I'm not expecting the Democratic Party to be the Republicans, where the far-right extremist mentality is the one that's pushed forward, and that even if you're a moderate Republican, you basically, if you don't vote along with the most extreme people, that basically you're going to get trounced. But I do not like the constant catering to the moderates, where basically a bill comes up, you have to water it down because the moderates don't want to make it look like they're too aggressive. Then you pass it, and then immediately the moderates apologize, or how dare we try to make your life better? And then they campaign against, I was against the bill that I voted for. And then all of a sudden they get voted out of office, and they realize, oh, the bill that we voted for was actually popular. It was like, hey, why didn't people out there embrace the bill? I mean, that is part of the problem that the Democrats have had. Embrace your platform. Embrace your strategy. Embrace your bills. Embrace them. The Republicans, they don't have anything. They're not going to do anything here. The only thing they want are tax cuts for wealthy people. So what are the Republicans in the state of Minnesota going to do come election cycle in 2024? Oh, they're a bunch of extremists. They're a bunch of extremists. Even if you were to go and to the minority leaders in the House and the Senate and beg them on your knees, let us know what bill we could pass. Let us know. I shouldn't say this. They're probably getting excited. But if we did that and we passed the Republican wish list, you know what they would say come the election cycle? They're a bunch of extremists. The fact that you guys are not caving to this already, you're not already looking for a way to apologize for being Democrat, is a very good sign. And you don't have to. I mean, we could have some debates about specific issues, but the reality is you guys are doing a great job because you're not just doing what the handful of moderates are. Everyone's on board with the Democratic proposals, and that's good. They're not too extreme for the most part. It's basic, decent rights, protecting individual rights, stuff like that. When next year comes up, especially to the Minnesota House, let me make sure I'm going to write your ads for you right now. Republicans call us extremists. Well, if you think extremist is defending women's rights, if you think extremist is stopping racism in the workplace, if you think extremist is trying to create a good, well-funded education system, if you think extremist is trying to get fair wages for all workers, then damn right I'm an extremist. Damn right. Label me extremist. Paid for by blah, 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 blah. You take away all the wind out of their sails because there's, they're going to sit there. They're trying to force this on you. And don't get me wrong. The Republicans have already started putting money into ads that are going out there to make it look like you are, your death walking the earth. I have zero doubt of that. Zero doubt. But that's all they have. They don't have any bills. They don't have anything. We'll talk about tax relief. Well, not for middle and lower class. And then, by the way, there's your next ad. He's like, Republicans are going to talk about tax relief, but only if you're a millionaire or a billionaire. If you're not, sucks to be you. That's the Republican policy. Paid for by this. There you go. Be prepared for it. You see, is this whole thing, it is a game to a point. And if you know how to address it and you can see the speed bumps and the potholes up ahead, you can navigate it fairly easy. The Democrats' biggest problem for the last 30 years has been they've been reactionary. And since 2018, they've been proactive. And they've done pretty well. They've actually done a better job than I thought they were going to. But the reality is that you need to embrace being a proud Democrat. No more of this, I'm so sorry I passed this bill. Nope. You stand by your accomplishments. You stand by this. What makes Republicans stay awake staring at the ceiling all night long are proud Democrats, proud of the agenda, proud of the things they're getting done. You've got a massive budget surplus. You can do an insane amount of good in this state. You keep at it. I'm going to want to stay away from some of the fringe stuff. But the reality is most of the stuff so far, even though it's been very traditional Democrat, it's gotten through. And good on you. Be prepared for that fight. Because if you're looking ahead, then you can't get caught off guard by this extremism that's out there. And frankly, the Republicans don't seem to be shying away from being more extremist. If anything, they're trying to be more extremists for the next election cycle. So get the ads ready. If making sure people have affordable health care is extremist, if me making sure the roads are fixed and maintained is extremist, if me making sure that everyone gets a quality education is extremist, if me fighting for equal rights for all is extremist, then guilty as charged. Hour 2. That's up next.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy-efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area. Visit snapconstruction.com.
Hello, it's Randy Rhodes. Team Randy, glad to be a part of the lineup of Progressive Voices on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ed Donahue. The Supreme Court seems ready to sink President Biden's plan to wipe out or reduce student loans for millions of people. The AP's Sagar Magani has the story.
Lower courts have blocked the plan, estimated to cost $400 billion over 30 years. The high court's conservatives appear skeptical of the administration's right to use the COVID-19 emergency to broadly cancel debt. From Chief Justice John Roberts, who several times mentioned the program's cost,
$500 billion,
to Justice Brett Kavanaugh, suggesting the administration simply bypassed Congress's refusal to authorize the program by creating a massive new one.
and that seems problematic.
The president's only hope for moving forward with the plan appears to be the slim chance that the court rules the individuals and states challenging the program do not have the legal right to sue. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Stocks finished the day lower, the Dow down 232 points. President Biden says he will release his budget next week. He told a crowd in Virginia Beach, Virginia, he knows Republicans want to cut costs.
What are they going to cut? That's the big question. For millions of Americans, health care hangs in the balance. Will they continue to fight to cut the Affordable Care Act and make health insurance more expensive for millions of Americans?
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has not released details of a GOP spending plan. Russia says drones were launched by Ukraine and flew deep inside Russian territory, including one that got within 60 miles of Moscow. On Capitol Hill, Defense Department Inspector General Robert Storch says they make sure weapons going to Ukraine stay in the right hands.
We're laser focused on this issue and engaged in robust oversight to make sure that's the case. We're doing audits and evaluations.
The president of Mexico said today his country is more democratic than the United States. This is AP News.
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our healthcare. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining MediShare right now. MediShare is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season. With healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up, MediShare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 27 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second. And if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE. 855-51-BIBLE.
Hi, this is Frank Brown, owner of Minuteman Press Uptown, Minnesota's only minority-owned union printing company. But we are not just another print shop. We are a marketing and promotion company that has over 100 years of experience in helping clients not only with their printing needs, but also with their marketing strategies. We offer marketing ideas for clients from targeted direct mailings to digital geofencing. I am passionate about helping businesses grow.
Frank and his team at Minuteman Press Uptown have been great to work with. They always come with fresh marketing and promotion ideas that help us grow. But that is not the only reason I choose to work with them. Check out their Google reviews. I choose Minuteman Press Uptown because they match the values of AM 950. They pay above livable wages, stand up for social, racial, and economic justice. Call Minuteman Press Uptown at 612-870-0777 or visit mpuptown.com. See the difference they can make with your company. They print everything.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 35. Tonight, 1 to 3 inches of snow with a low around 30. And Wednesday, more light snow with a high around 35. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner, try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson, or at hazelsnetogo.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show on your Tuesday. Matt and Patrick here today. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. It's funny here. You want to hear how broken the Republicans are? This showed up in my Twitter feed just now. Not only do Democrats plan to spend the $17.5 billion surplus, actually, they don't know what they're going to do with it. They haven't passed any bills. So you saying that this is going to do it is already starting off with you lying. We don't know what's going to happen. They say they want to raise more taxes. Well, I think what Governor Walz has said is he wants to actually equalize the tax rate on the wealthier people. So, and by the way, I have no problem with that. The GOP plan is lowering first and second tier tax rates, full elimination of Social Security tax, $1,800 per tax credit per child, property tax relief, $5 billion in rebates. Dude, all you're doing, okay, first of all, the rebates are all going to go to wealthy people. Property tax relief is going to mostly go to wealthy people. The $1,800 tax credit, that's going to, wealthy people are going to get that one. The full elimination of the Social Security tax, that's it. And once again, it's getting that first tier tax rate lowered for the wealthiest people because trickle down economics is going to work at some point. Yeah. So the Republican plan is basically to give the vast majority of that money to wealthy people, and then they'll get a great job after they're done with their political career. It's so sad how predictable they are. I mean, you got the one side, the Democrats are like, we're going to fund education, we're going to fund roads, we're going to fund, health care, child care, we're going to do all these things. It's like, we're going to give tax breaks to wealthy people. Isn't that great? The Republican Party. Patrick, how long have you been here at the radio station? Do you remember when you started?
Little over 3 years now.
So when did you start? Late 2019?
Beginning of 2020, right after New Year's.
Right after New Year's. Were you here for the Jesse Diggins interview?
I don't recall being here for that. I was only working 1 day a week for most of that first year. So.
The Jesse Diggins, of course, Diggins from Minnesota, Olympic cross-country skier, the best U.S. cross-country skier this country's ever produced. This is just such a pure thing that this is when everything slammed down. I must have done it with Brett. We did an interview with Diggins because she was just releasing a book, and I actually got an advanced media copy of the book, and I still have it at home. I ever get the chance to meet Jesse Diggins, I'm going to have her sign it. Because what I remember happening is we were one of the first interviews she did about this book, and we ended up calling and recording the interview earlier in the day because we had a call to, I think it was Sweden, where she was training. And so we had a call to Sweden to get her on the phone where she was training. And we did this interview, and she was just a wonderful person to talk to, and this just was really inspiring and stuff. We get this interview, and I don't even know if it was the next day. It might have been like 5 hours later. That afternoon, we get wind that the book tour has been canceled because COVID smacked down everything, and that was the end of that. And so they canceled the book tour, and she didn't get to go out and do the book tour. We still aired the interview. And as a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite interviews we ever did was the Jesse Diggins interview. That was a good interview. And I felt so sorry for her because here it was going to be her crowning moment, and then COVID kind of smacked things down. And I don't think they ever did they released the book, but I don't think they ever did a book tour or anything like that after that. And so, yeah, I felt really sorry for her, but I couldn't be more proud of her. And we have even more of a reason to be proud of her It's time for you. If you don't like it when we talk about sports, well, get ready. Let's talk about cross-country skiing. Jessie Diggins skied the first individual to the first individual gold medal in U.S. cross-country skiing history on Tuesday. She noticed all the American wax technicians dart out on the course to cheer for her. There were so many that she didn't recognize at least one of their voices. I remember at one point thinking, I don't even know who that was. Diggins, who did an interview and tears of joy afterward, told Norwegian broadcaster NRK, they were just going crazy, and it was just such a good feeling. When you're in really good shape, it still hurts, but you still feel like you can just push so hard. In her trademark style, Diggins skied an all-guts race for 23 minutes and 40 seconds to win the World Championship 10K freestyle in Slovenia. She prevailed by 14 seconds over Swede Frida Karlsson, and another Swede, Ebba Andersson, took bronze in the event, where the skiers went out 30-second intervals. You think they were blondes? Never mind. I've heard about Scandinavia. I have no idea. But they got names. That's from up there. They went out at 30-second intervals, making it an individual test against the clock, and she won. And once again, Diggins won. That's the crazy part about this. Diggins, 2 days after dragging Norwegian and Sweden skiers behind her on the team sprint, where she earned bronze with Julia Kern, began her 10K 1 minute after Karlsson, who took silver in the last words in the Worlds in 2021. Within the first 4 minutes, Diggins had opened up a 3-second lead on Karlsson. Diggins held a similar lead, each split through 7.7 kilometers, keeping it suspenseful. But the final 6 minutes, she put the hammer down. God, she's got power. She's got some freaking power. Go back and watch that gold medal race and watch her drop. There's a moment there you see where it's like, okay, it's over. And I have an incredible amount of respect for these people that can do this. It's not me. I can tell you that right now. But when she, one of the things I've learned about Diggins is when she wants to go, she goes. And that's what she did in the last final 6 minutes. She put the hammer down, leaving no doubt as she skied to the finish and collapsed into the snow right in front of Karlsson. I couldn't stop crying after the race, said Diggins, who raced with gold glitter on her cheeks. I was like, I can't even enjoy this because I can't even see. I'm crying the whole time. It was so special. The U.S. cross-country skiers previously won 13 Olympic or World Championship medals dating to 1976, but Tuesday marked the first gold medal in an individual event. Diggins, already the U.S. cross-country skiing record holder in Olympic medals, one for every color, World Championship medals, now 6, and an individual World Cup wins, 14, add another feather to her cap. It's just fantastic. I can't tell you how happy I am for her on this. It is she's just amazing. She's just, there are some athletes I am just in awe of. Serena Williams, I'm in awe of her. Just watching her play, I'm in awe of her. Jessie Diggins, I'm in awe of her. She's just amazing. Just amazing to watch. And it's the thing which seems like she did. And I remember the interview that we did with her. One of the things she talked about was the American skiers for a long time were trying to train like American skiers. And she said, I need to train like the Scandinavian skiers do, which is a much more intensive, harder train. And I can remember we talked to her. She got done with the full morning of cross-country skiing. Her relaxation thing was a 100-mile ski that afternoon. 100 freaking miles. I can't drive 100 miles without taking at least 2 stops. I got to have some of those Funyuns. They're delicious. Different mentality. So in commemoration to Jessie Diggins winning this, I think I'll watch that Scandinavian movie Troll. Apparently it's about a big rock troll that runs around Scandinavia. It's just like cross-country skiing, only with trolls. And I'm going to guess the acting. This is one of the greatest parts about streaming services. You realize how many bad movies every country actually makes. Something tells me I'm going to be in for a treat of some seriously bad acting watching Troll on Netflix tonight. 952-946-6205. 952. I think Jessie Diggins would appreciate the fact that in commemoration of her winning, I'm watching Troll on Netflix. because that's the kind of training I do. Coming up a little bit later on this hour, we have got another pair of tickets to go see Bill Maher at Mystic Lake on May 21st. Listen for your chance to call in for that. Brett Johnson is kind enough to step in here and join us right now as he gets the privilege of chatting with Patrick Cooligan on Tuesdays. And he is, they're talking about the budget surplus. And plus, as there's a new bill over in the Capitol to go after Ticketmaster a little bit because of all the problems that we've had with them. He talks to him about that as well. It's Brett Johnson talking with Patrick Cooligan right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And we're joined by Patrick Cooligan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer, minnesotareformer.com, for the latest in Minnesota news and politics. As today in our conversation with Patrick, we'll mainly be focusing on the comings and goings at the Capitol, including how the DFL might be spending that $17 billion budget surplus as we are entering the middle of the session and even getting towards the end of the session. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about the Ticketmaster fiasco and what Minnesota House of Representative members are planning to do with Ticketmaster. So, Patrick, as always, thanks for coming back on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
So let's start talking about that $17 billion budget surplus and how DFLers might try to use that surplus. The DFL certainly does have unity on issues like education funding, paid family leave, and tuition-free college for Minnesota students. But the state tax on Social Security benefits could be a sticking point. Where do we stand right now in terms of possibly eliminating or changing how we tax Social Security benefits in Minnesota?
Well, there's a number of DFL members, especially in the closed districts that were instrumental to the DFL taking control of the legislature, who campaigned on the issue of eliminating state tax on Social Security benefits. And I think that they are probably telling their caucuses, look, I campaigned on this, and it really resonated with voters in the district and my door knocking, and here we are, and we kind of got a delivery here. On the other side, however, you have some more progressive Democrats who are saying, well, look, this tax cut leaves out 55% of all Social Security recipients. They wouldn't get anything out of this because they don't currently pay state tax on their Social Security benefits. And then in the meantime, the cost of this is could be significant. It could be if you do the whole subtraction, it's $1.2 billion. And it's only going to rise over time because of the aging population. And so they see that money tilting toward the wealthy and growing over time, and that just cuts into their other priorities. So I think there's going to be a debate about that issue, although it's going to be one of several debates I think we're going to see in the coming weeks.
Well, one other area of likely debate is going to be what to do in terms of sending that money back to Minnesota families. What are the proposals right now for sending checks to Minnesotans, and what is the likelihood of that passing this session? Are there differences between what the legislature is proposing and the House and Senate and even Governor Walz? Because certainly it looks like we are going to get some sort of rebate check. It's just a matter, it seems, of how much and who's going to be targeted, correct?
Yeah, Governor Walz introduced this proposal last year, called it Walz checks, in a touch of brilliant marketing. And Republicans were absolutely opposed to it. They were holding on, hoping that they would control the legislature and then they could cut income tax rates instead. But the Democrats ended up winning the election. Walz has proposed it, and he's proposed $1,000 for an individual filer making less than $75,000 a year, and $2,000 for joint filers. Interestingly, his proposal has a hard cap. So if you make $75,001, you're out. Now the taxes chairs are presenting the governor's budget. It's generally done as an act of courtesy for the sitting governor. That's happening today and tomorrow. As far as the consensus in the legislature, I'm not sure that there's huge excitement in the DFL caucuses for this kind of plan. I think that they think there might be better uses for it. On the tax side, specifically a child tax credit, which would give cash to people with children, and then also working family credit, which is a cash that goes out to essentially the working poor. So I'm a little iffier than you are about whether or not there's going to be this rebate. I do think in the end, if the governor really wants it, then it's going to be hard for his DFL colleagues to say no. And I also think there's probably going to be some more significant pressure on Democratic lawmakers from a renewed Republican push, and they're going to. I think they can run a strong opposition campaign here that says, look, we've got this surplus, and I think the average Minnesotan is aware of the surplus. And what are you, what are you doing with it? You're going to spend more money on this and that, but what about my own expenses, given the increased cost of everything from eggs to electricity? So I still think it remains to be seen how that rebate situation plays out.
Now, Republicans today also put out their own plan for what they would like to do with that surplus. Do we have any idea kind of what they're proposing or what their thoughts are on what they want to do with rebate checks and tax cuts? Since obviously we know that's usually a big issue with Republicans.
Yeah, they are giving money away left and right. Unfortunately for them, they're in the minority and this stuff is not going to pass. But they want to give away an even bigger rebate check, $1,250 for individual filers and $2,500 for joint filers, and there'd be no income limit. So a millionaire would get the check just as much as you or I would. They also want to end completely the state tax on Social Security benefits. They do a child tax credit, and then they also want to reduce income tax rates by 1 percentage point each of the lower two brackets. Of course, that again, rich people would also benefit from that. So, you're going to hear Democrats say that A, this is tilted toward the wealthy, and B, you're going to be putting us in a precarious fiscal situation. And if there's a recession, a really serious one, then we're going to be forced to either raise taxes or make cuts to important programs like education and health and human services.
Well, you touched on an idea earlier that most Minnesotans in general are aware that, of course, we have this big budget surplus. But I wanted to bring this up because, well, in another media publication, the Star Tribune, obviously, they wrote an article talking about how Democrats are moving fast on so many bills right now. And you had some interesting thoughts on this right now, how maybe the public is not paying quite as close attention to the legislature as well. A lot of insiders like you and me kind of pay attention to. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, because right now, before the Democrats obviously have to tackle many of these types of budget issues, they have passed many popular issues, or at least working on popular issues like legalizing cannabis, also codifying abortion access, and possibly even legalizing sports betting. So I guess my question is, how much attention does the public kind of pay it to these issues, especially when it comes to fiscal issues? Or I'm curious what your thoughts are, because it's easy when you and I talk about what's happening at the legislature to kind of forget that the public at large really isn't paying that close attention to what's happening.
Yeah, generally speaking, and this is a frustration for me as someone who covered the legislature, and I thought that there was a lot of interesting stuff happening, a lot of policy that affected millions of Minnesotans, and I thought we did a decent job covering it, and yet nobody seemed to care that much. And you ask the average person, they don't necessarily know who their legislator is. And I kind of get all that. It's because people are busy, and very often the legislature, especially in recent years, has been divided. So one side says this, the other side says the other. The Senate would pass something, and then the House would pass something else, and then they couldn't agree, and then there'd be this big kind of fight at the end, and somehow they would manage to keep the government up and running. That would be about it. This session is certainly different. The Democrats have gotten down to work, and I think all you heard, what you've been hearing a lot of, and I think that's sort of what prompts that Star Tribune story is there the risk of overreach here, that they have misread the electorate, that they're pushing too hard, and they think they had this mandate for progressive change, and they really didn't. But I tend to think if you look at these bills, restoring voting rights to people who have a felony but are now no longer incarcerated, or a driver's license for people who are undocumented. The codifying abortion rights you mentioned. These are issues that are broadly popular with the Democratic base, and so you make them happy. There are no real strong interest groups who you're really you're not taking anything from anyone. We already have abortion rights, so sure, we're putting it into law, and you're going to anger the anti-abortion folks, but they were never on your side anyway. So I think these bills, they're moving quickly, they're passing them. I don't really see any political downside. I do think that there's higher stakes when it comes to the fiscal issues, because it just affects more people. It's how much money I have in my pocket, how much do I pay in taxes, are they giving me any help on college tuition, child care, health care. And so I think that's where I'm sure they're gonna be cognizant of the fact that we really need to give some tangible benefits to people, whether it's a rebate, child tax credit, or it's free tuition or free child care. Those tangible benefits, people need to see that. And I think, if they do, then I think that they can come out of this pretty pleased with how the session went.
And final topic to talk to you about, and this is one that I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle can agree on, that something needs to be done about Ticketmaster and Live Nation. I want to talk a little bit about an article that Grace Deng was working on titled "After Taylor Swift Ticketmaster Fiasco, Minnesota House Looks to Require Ticket Price Transparency." And a lot of this has to do with what's cleverly titled House File 1989. So I'm curious, what exactly is in this recently advanced bill? At least it was advanced through a Minnesota House committee. How does it aim to address some of the issues we've been seeing with Ticketmaster's ticket selling practices, this bill in the House?
So it's mostly a transparency bill, so it would kind of tell you what you're paying up front for fees and charges, and then it would also prevent what they're calling double dipping, or that's when fees are charged every time a ticket is sold and then resold by the same company. So if Ticketmaster charges the fees once, they can't charge those fees again when the ticket is resold. The one thing that is left out here is what's called dynamic pricing, and that's when the demand for let's say a Taylor Swift concert goes up, then they raise their prices based on their algorithm. And apparently they don't want to ban dynamic pricing because it's widely used now and really often saves people a lot of money in other industries like airlines and Uber. Like if nobody's using Uber, then you're going to pay less. The same with the airlines. And also, I mean, realistically, this is an issue for the feds. I think that the legislature can work around the edges here, but this is a behemoth company that was allowed to get too big, and the federal government's going to have to take some antitrust action here to break up this what is functionally a monopoly. Because when you buy tickets to events, generally speaking, you pretty much have one choice, and that's Ticketmaster, and it gives them a massive pricing power, which all of us experience when we buy tickets.
Yeah, I certainly like some of the transparency provisions in the bill, but I do have questions as to whether how effective this might be. And I think you kind of addressed why Minnesota is kind of limited on this, because simply when it comes to talking about that monopoly power, as you said, that's something that's largely going to come from the federal government. But as you said, we can still at least kind of do things around the edges here at the state level, and maybe the transparency can help a little bit in terms of trying to get some of these outrageous fees at least reduced a little bit.
Yeah, I think what pleases me is that this really shows that antitrust has become part of the conversation in a way that it wasn't even 5, but especially 10 years ago. And I think there's just a better understanding by the public, and legislators, and not just Democratic legislators. There's an interest in this on agriculture amongst Republicans, and certainly big tech. They have come out against that. There's just an understanding that bigger is not necessarily better, and that these companies, when they become too powerful, it can be bad for consumers, for workers, and for communities. So I think that I take this as a good sign that we're moving on antitrust issues.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Glad that's coming a little bit more to the forefront, not just on the Ticketmaster industry, but lots of others as well. We have been speaking with Patrick Coolican. He is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. Make sure you check out their great reporting with the latest in Minnesota news and politics over at minnesotareformer.com. Patrick, thanks again for the time today for coming on.
Always a pleasure.
And let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Hey, John, I heard you're turning 65 this year. Time to start comparing your Medicare insurance options.
I'm so overwhelmed with all the different Medicare companies and plan designs. I don't even know where to begin.
Really? I worked with CompareYourMedicare.com, and they made my Medicare decisions seem easy.
Oh, really? Well, what do they do?
CompareYourMedicare.com represents several of the top Medicare insurance companies in Minnesota. A local licensed agent will help you compare Medicare plans to determine which products best meet your needs and budget.
Hi, this is Jared with CompareYourMedicare.com. We're a local small business that prides itself in helping our community with their Medicare needs. Medicare is complex, but it doesn't have to be. Whether you're planning to retire early or work past Medicare eligibility at age 65, give us a call. We can guide you through how and when to apply for Medicare. Go to CompareYourMedicare.com or call 952-465-0074 to schedule a consultation. CompareYourMedicare.com is part of the Minnesota Health Insurance Network of Agents.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. On December 8th, I was driving home in my Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. At a traffic light, a car slammed into me. Without a doubt in my mind, if I hadn't been driving a Sienna, I wouldn't be here right now. The car is designed to take a wallop and keep the people inside safe, as it did for me. It's one thing to hear someone talk about safety standards. It's another to become an example of the safety standards. The Toyota saved my life, and I will always own one. If you want real safety, visit Rudy Luther Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota, the corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Habitation presents a radio drama. To buy or not to buy, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler to compromise and live with a sectional that doth not fit my space, or to take up arms against a sea of mediocrity, and by opposing it, to rest, to be comfortable, to enjoy the space that is my home. Hi, this is Gregory Rich, owner of Habitation Design and host of Drink in the Style. I'd like to personally invite you to our new showroom located in the District at Edina, 7777 Washington Avenue South. Habitation, put some drama into your interior design.
We're facing into some of the greatest challenges the world has faced in decades. How do we address this great transformation in how we deal with land, how we engage with people, how we produce enough food but produce it just and regeneratively? And how do we do that at a time of social, economic, and climatic emergency?
Attend the Regenerative Agriculture and Food Systems Summit in Chicago on March 28th and 29th. This summit brings together farmers, food and beverage brands, and stakeholders with one unified mission: to accelerate the transition to regenerative agriculture. Together, we can build a more abundant and resilient food system for generations to come. For more information, go to Regenerative Agriculture Summit USA. Enter the code FOODFREEDOM10 for a 10% discount. That's 10% off with Food Freedom 10.
Hey, it's Tom. With fossil fuel energy costs continuing to rise, it's time to stabilize your business's expenses with a new commercial solar system from All Energy Solar. A system from All Energy Solar has a life of 25 to 30 years, allowing you to lock in your electric rates without worrying about endless rate increases. All Energy Solar has worked with businesses of all sizes and types and can customize a solution for you. Solar solutions for your business are completely scalable, so you never need to worry that you're paying for more system than you actually need. Plus, All Energy Solar can help you find all the relevant tax credits at the federal and local level. They include up to a 50% federal tax credit, deducting depreciation from your system up to 100%, and more. And while it's certainly good to save on your utility costs, your customers will appreciate working with a business that prioritizes reducing their environmental impact. Get a free, no-obligation assessment from All Energy Solar's commercial solar specialists by calling 800-620-3370 or visiting allenergysolar.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 35. Tonight, 1 to 3 inches of snow with a low around 30. And Wednesday, more light snow with a high around 35. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner, try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson or at hazelsnetogo.com.
AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. By the way, we have another pair of tickets to give away to go see Bill Maher at Mystic Lake Casino, May 21st. If you are caller number 9 at 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Caller number 9, you'll get yourself a pair of tickets, May 21st, Mystic Lake Casino, Bill Maher. Good luck on that. 952-946-6205. It's Star Tribune actually points out something. I'd mentioned the Republicans' tweet about the rebate checks. Funny story. Republicans only recently, it wasn't that long ago that the Republicans were ripping on rebate checks when Governor Walz proposed them last year. Now all of a sudden they're like, we want rebate checks. And they said they were a gimmick, but yeah, apparently that they're okay gimmick for them. I've been meaning to get to this story. I didn't have enough time to get to it yesterday. I wanted to mention this because the Republican Party really actually is in a lot of trouble because, and you can go back to what I've pointed to a few different times where there was this distinct moment where a decision was made by the people in charge to welcome in a further right mentality than they should have welcomed into the table. And once they started down this path, there was no way out of it. You know, and I the most consummate example of this, was the deal that Karl Rove and Dick Cheney made with the extremist far-right groups who, up until that point, were not part of, the Republican Party didn't want anything to do with them, but now have become the mainstream. And they did this in early 2004 because they were going to lose unless they basically had, more foot soldiers. So they welcomed in the guys that lived on compounds and the Klan and these extremist religious groups. And they brought them all in and they basically said, you can be part of we'll give you a seat at the table. And that was the end of it. And people said it was a mess. And it was 4 years later, all of a sudden Sarah Palin is on the ticket. Someone that was grossly unqualified to be a candidate for the Republican ticket, and grossly unqualified. And here you are today where you've created a system because you've gerrymandered so many districts. You've created these blood, red districts, which only will go more extreme. They will never go back to the more moderate. They will only go more extreme. And you have the Republican Party as a whole trying to figure out, the non-extremist Republican Party trying to figure out some way to kind of not alienate that group, but at the same time tell them to sit down and shut up. And it's not gone well here in Minnesota because the Republicans have been at each other's throats in multiple times, having a lot of issues here. Patrick, you do have a winner for us here?
Yes, congratulations to Jerry from Corcoran. You are going to see Bill Maher at Mystic Lake on May 21st.
Congratulations, Jerry. Good news for you. Tomorrow, I've got another pair of tickets in the 3 o'clock hour, another pair of tickets in the 4 o'clock hour, and I should mention as well, Jeff Stein and Cliff Schechter tomorrow. So make sure you're here on AM 950. Ooh, ah, I believe is the official term. Anyway, Republicans, I mean, anyone who's sane should realize Donald Trump is the absolute worst candidate you could run for president. And he's going to be their nominee. Because much like the twins in the first decade of this century, where they created a bunch of Joe Mauer fans who also happen to be Twins fans, and not attributing any politics to Joe Mauer or the Minnesota Twins per se, but just they created a bunch of Joe Mauer fans who happen to be Twins fans. The Republican Party has created a bunch of Trump fans that are basically, that will also say, okay, fine, I'll also support the Republican Party. And if Trump is not there, the feeling is that they're not going to show up. And so the extremists still have strong control over the party. And it's, you know, and I honestly think when you look back at Kim Crockett, I honestly think, because I keep asking the question is, you know, Jensen was bad, but how in the world do you allow Kim Crockett to be your Secretary of State candidate? How? I mean, how is that even a possibility? And the reality is I think that was a candidate that was put out there to try to appease that far right extremist group. That they said, yeah, well, we'll bring her on in, and that way they won't get too upset with us. So you got a real big problem here, and it's not getting any better. And the more you guys fan the flames of extremism, the less likely you are to ever get that group of people back under control. Earlier this month, a group of local Republicans in a small town in western Minnesota stopped dozens of their fellow conservatives from entering a local political convention, a punishment for supporting someone other than the GOP nominee in the last general election. The Otter Tail County Sheriff's Office was called to clear the 33 suspended individuals from blocking the hallway at a venue in Otter Tail, where they stood for hours waiting to be let in. In the culmination of a bitter feud over the state Senate race in deep red western Minnesota that stretched on for more than a year and has included allegations of fraud and harassment, and also a microcosm of the intra-party turmoil that has been building in greater Minnesota across the country between more traditional Republicans and newcomers to the party who were brought in through Donald Trump's presidency and anger over COVID-19 mandates. Well, they were brought in before that. I mean, the COVID-19 mandates was manna from heaven for Trump, because he used the pandemic for his own political gain. But no, overall, not exactly great. He brought in kind of the you're not the racist, they're the racists, that sort of thing. Lots of Republican parties were swamped with new people a year ago. They were elected delegates, said Jay Duggan, who runs a website, a Facebook page that tries to get conservatives to be part of politics in greater Minnesota. If you want something changed, you want to change something to be different, you have to get more involved. They have to get involved everywhere. There were more than 24 GOP primary battles last summer for legislative seats, and in some cases, new activists successfully challenged Republican incumbents for their endorsement. In the general election, conservative challenged Republicans as write-in candidates in several districts. One such candidate in Clay County is currently being sued by the state GOP for allegedly misrepresenting himself as a party chair. In many races, insurgent candidates lost. By the way, delightful. In many races, insurgent candidates lost, but nowhere has a feud raged on long as it has in Otter Tail County, where the divide among activists has reached a new level of intensity. In 2022, a group of conservatives in the county banded together behind a new candidate for a local state Senate seat, Nathan Miller, who alleged that manipulated delegate counts led him to lose the endorsement to then State Representative Jordan Rasmussen. Local GOP officials said any delegate issues were corrected and cleared by the state party. Rasmussen won the endorsement on the first ballot. Miller, who said he originally entered the race because he didn't believe Rasmussen was conservative enough for the deep red district, continued onto a GOP primary. And once again, the mistake that you guys make, and to a point, I will say this, sometimes this is the problem that I think people that come from, very blue districts make, is that you can't just scream your agenda to moderates and think they're going to come with you. And this is the problem that the Republicans have. And they had a pretty substantial problem this last election cycle. I mean, a pretty substantial problem, because you lost the suburbs, a lot of them. This is why the Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. you have these people out in Otter Tail County that have nothing to lose, whose mentality is, well, adopt the most far-right political stances you possibly can, and then the rest of the Republican Party will have to vote for them. And they didn't. And you can have your little press conferences about how you'd spend the budget surplus, but you got no say in how the budget surplus is going to get spent. So you can sit down and shut up. And, that's the reality of it. So it's just comical that these guys can't see the problem they have by being the most extremist they can and trying to force that on the rest of the state. It creates a poison pill that destroys any chance for Republicans to win statewide. So I did not believe it would ever be sorted out if I didn't continue to push forward, he said. The campaign was acrimonious with allegations of harassment and damaged campaign materials. The Republican Party of Minnesota filed a complaint against Miller, alleging he was misrepresenting himself as a Republican candidate. Some local activists posted on social media that they wrote in Miller or supported third-party candidate over Rasmussen and other Republican candidates on the ballot. Local party officials suspended those individuals from the convention this month. That month, the party the party meeting and conduct a routine non-election year business for supporting someone other than a nominee in the general election. At the Otter Tail County Convention, the delegates voted not to seat a group that had worked against Republican-endorsed candidates and general election nominees, said Michael Lonergan, a spokesperson for the Republican Party of Minnesota, which was consulted by county GOP officials. These sorts of procedural matters are well within local party units' authority and are fairly routine. Marcia Huddleston, a local Republican delegate, said she was held in a hallway for 2 hours waiting to be seated, and the convention was never allowed in. She said she supported a third party in the fall election and now can represent her community in local party politics. Where in America can one be punished of how they vote in a general secret ballot election? Otter Tail County, she said. Miller was one amongst those who were suspended. These are grassroots, hardworking people who do. And you know what? The mentality you have, and I want to call them out on this, is that you're just going to go back and you're going to be the whipped little pups. You're going to be the whipped little pups. And you're going to go back and you're going to vote Republican because I don't want the Democrat to win. Let me explain something to you. The Republican Party has gotten themselves into such a fix. If you guys actually did sit out an election, I guarantee the 22 people that were banned from coming into that, was it 22 people that were banned from coming into the convention, would be welcomed with open arms if it became clear without them the Republicans can't win that seat. Now, I think it's fairly clear some of these seats, you'd have to have a pretty substantial drop off of Republican voters, but this is where you're getting out there. You're getting this extremist point of view that is very specific towards the most far right you can possibly be, which, and once again, the state party is trying to temper this. They're trying to allow you to be far right psycho light. You can be extremist, you can be out there, you can be on the far side of things, but you still have to vote for moderate Republican proposals, or else we'll never be able to sell our brand in the freaking suburbs. Well, it doesn't work that way. You guys should have never welcomed in the far right extremists. You should have never done that. But, you live and learn. These are grassroots, hardworking people who do the dirty work of knocking on doors, working fair booths, walking parades. True foot soldiers do not deserve this kind of treatment, Miller said in an email. The group was a fraction of more than the 400 delegates and alternatives to the Otter Tail County Republican Party, whose chair they said is in a better position going forward. There's no time or place for disruptions and threats of the parties, its candidates, officers, volunteers, or families. Otter Tail County GOP Chair Ben Anderson wrote in a statement, "We had a successful county convention despite efforts to disrupt it by opposing groups and third-party campaigns. Duggan said tensions are ongoing and conservatives might start to break away from the party organization in some counties, running their own candidates and forming third parties." If the Republicans were smart at all, they would have welcomed Tom Bach to stay as an independent in that district. But you see, as they can't help themselves. They keep that after they've shot themselves in the foot multiple times, they start reloading again because that's who they are. they had a chance. I want to make sure you understand that if they would have embraced a more moderate candidate in some of these districts, not these extremists who are out there, who many of them were on record talking about, I'll ban all abortions forever, who are there desperately trying to say, well, when I said that, that was a good 6 hours earlier, and I've changed my mind since then. Paraphrasing. The problem they have is that they don't know how to be moderate anymore. They want to be moderate. Moderate Republicans have had tremendous success over the years. But ever since that you've had the extremist far right out there, and once again, you had Russia helping Trump, you had Fox News helping Trump, you had all these people that were out there helping Trump. Sure, then in 2016 to 2018, it was a little rough. But overall, they basically are starting to lose out on message. And this is kind of a recurring theme this entire show. The reality is that they're all they have is tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. They have no policy outside of they want to kill Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. They have the extremist far right who think you should inject bleach and jam ivermectin up your backside. Those are the kind of the moderate voices of the party anymore. And they can't sell this anywhere within 70 miles of the metro area. So, yeah, it's a pretty substantial, it's a hilarious problem, but it's a pretty substantial problem you guys have got. And, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how in the world you guys are going to get away from it, but good luck this next election cycle. I'm sure you won't have any harsh feelings with extremist conservatives who you basically make sit out in the hall and not attend the convention. I'm sure that won't come back to bite you at all. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Bill Maher and his great humor is coming to Mystic Lake on May 21st, and AM 950 is giving away free tickets to go see him. Tune into my show, The Matt McNeil Show, this week for your chance to win a pair of tickets. Don't miss out on this chance to see one of the most famous Democratic comedians of our time live. Again, from now until Thursday, listen to The Matt McNeil Show for your chance to win tickets to see Bill Maher May 21st at Mystic Lake. Free laughs are courtesy of AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's lights out at Rudy Luther Toyota. Are there some mysterious lights lighting up your dashboard? Then head over to Rudy Luther Toyota and have them check out your vehicle to make sure it's safe. And scheduling an appointment is really easy. Head to rudyluthertoyota.com. Click on the lights out section and then follow the simple instructions to schedule up your service that fits your schedule. Then bring in your vehicle and have them turn those lights off. It's lights out at Luther. To schedule up your lights out service appointment, head to rudyluthertoyota.com.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
How have you been sleeping? I'm Dr. Inel Rosario from Andros ENT and Sleep Center, an independently owned clinic helping Minnesotans live and sleep better. We are experts at treating ear, nose, and throat issues and are equipped with an audiology and sleep center. Take the first steps to a better night's sleep and better health. Online at androsent-sleep.com. That's androsent-sleep.com. Or call 651-888-7800.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Dynamo Dave is kind of joining us. Hi, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Matt, for taking my call. Hey, a couple things. I remember when I began my career back in April 1980, and then a guy named Ronald Reagan got elected president, and he was Mr. Pull Yourself Up by Your Own Bootstraps, you know, Mr. whatever, coin welter queen stuff. And then he has the gall to introduce federal government taxing Social Security benefits. They're supposed to be this anti-tax Republicans, yet they get the middle class, So, and then Minnesota, is one of 12 or 13 states that does tax Social Security benefits. But back in, 40-some years ago, we went for many, many years in our government, whatever, in our nation without taxing Social Security. It's a pension. Like railroad pensions, I don't think those haven't been taxed for a long time.
Well, and Dave, let's make sure we make the point here is that he did this so he could give tax breaks to the millionaires and billionaires.
Yes.
And so that's what they have to do. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the phone call. I mean, when you look back, it was interesting. I was watching an old episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. This was about 6 months ago. And they were talking about Reagan coming in and the new guy's coming in and it's going to change things all for the better. I think was how the guy said it. And, it was kind of a little tongue in cheek on the episode, but the Republicans had done a really good job at vilifying Carter. And pardon me, one quick second. I might have to sneeze here. I'll let you know. I might have to. If I give you the signal. If I give the sneeze signal, there we go. If I do it into the mic, my bad. But we've got layers here. It's not like it's, back in, summer of 2020. But they talked about, and this was kind of this counterculture show, and they were talking about Reagan. Reagan had resonated because the Republicans had done a very good job of controlling narrative and controlling message. And I talked about this with Carter as he went into hospice. I said, we should remind everyone that there is a lot of evidence that the Reagan administration basically made a deal, or the Reagan campaign made a deal with the Iranians to keep the hostages until after the election, because they were terrified if the hostages came back prior to the election that basically that Carter would win. I mean, this was about changing how things went. Reagan himself was a horror. It wasn't really a good president. He didn't do anything. I remember when he fired all the air traffic controllers, and there was a study that was done in the late 1990s that said the airline industry never really recovered for that until Bill Clinton rehired them all 12 years later. That when he rehired them all 12 years later, finally, because he fired them all, there was no one to take over the jobs. And so the airlines ran at a much depreciated level for years until Bill Clinton hired them all back. But the reality is that these people today we can talk about the nuances of policy and stuff like this. This is it's all they do is anything on the other side. They hate the other side. We're going to give health care to the needy. Well, you're wasting my taxpayer dollars. We're going to pay for education. You're wasting my taxpayer dollars. Well, what's a good investment of your taxpayer dollars? Well, we need to give a massive tax break to the wealthy. And that's a good use of taxpayer dollars. No, it's not. It hasn't been for years, and it still won't be for many more. So it'll be the case. I mean, I've got a lot of faith when you look at the Minnesota Budget Office reporting that they reported yesterday that the budget surplus is $19.6 billion. Now it's only $19.5. But it should be noted the budget surplus was actually at $19 billion, but they're now factoring in inflation, so it actually dropped down to $17.5. Needless to say, a lot of people are going to get helped with this money because the Republicans are not in charge. And the Republicans, that's all they are. It's about tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires at the expense of all the rest of us, so that they can either get their another campaign check for the next election cycle, or the job that they're going to take after they're done with politics, lobbying for that industry. Family members get executive committee chairs. Kids get executive positions within corporations. That's what this is all about. And it's sad because it really is. It doesn't do us any justice as a society to have this kind of level of failure within one party. A party that's been taken over by the extreme far right. A party that it's more about hating people than it is about helping people. It really is tragic. But it's great news for the Democrats, especially when you look at Generation Z. Like I said in the first hour, Dear God, you guys are losing a generation really quick. And if this Supreme Court ruling goes away, I think it will, you're going to even lose more. Good luck with that. Native Roots Radio on the 6th. We're back tomorrow. Till then, see ya.
Hey, it's Tom. Many local utility companies and cities have recently renewed